Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is New Product Launch Process Using Engineering Change Management in Dynamics 365 SCM. My name is Linda, and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be visible by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you will be agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on Tech Talk's Community Dynamics page in the coming weeks. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the session and at the end of the presentation if there is time. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Ann Krupke, Senior Solutions Architect, Minu Lal, Senior Solutions Architect, and Hiren Naik, Senior Solutions Architect. Ann, over to you.
Thanks, Linda, and thank you everyone for joining us today to talk about the new product launch process with engineering change management. This Tech Talk is the second in a series of 4 Tech Talks on engineering change management. In this session, we're covering the new product launch process in engineering change management. If you missed our overview session last month, it's now available on the Dynamics 365 community page. We have 2 more Tech Talks coming up after this one in September, one for the product change process in ECM and one for product retirement. As always, we have a riddle of the day. The riddle today is what did the mechanical frog say? Feel free to put your guesses in the chat and we will reveal the answer at the end. In today's session, we will start by reviewing the new product launch process from a business perspective. We introduced this process last time in our overview Tech Talk. We'll talk about a specific scenario that we're going to demonstrate today. Then we'll hand it over to Hiren. He'll talk about the configurations that you need to get products set up in the system and the configurations for change orders. Then Minu will show us how to set up the release and readiness policies that control how we send product information to different companies. And then I'll take it back for a demonstration on how we can do that process in Dynamics once we have all of our configurations together. After that, if we have time, we'll get to any remaining questions in the Q&A portion of the session. Let's dive in. Our company, Kentozo Manufacturing, is launching a new addition to our audio line. We're introducing new wireless earbuds with an automatic noise cancellation feature. Let's walk through the high-level process that we're going to follow to get the headphones set up in Dynamics using engineering change management. In this scenario, we will have already completed the research and development portion of the new product launch, so we won't discuss that setup, although companies will often use the project management and accounting module to track the expenses and initial production runs in their R&D process. We will start our demonstration today by getting our product created in DEMF, which is our engineering organization in our Kentozo Corporation. We will do this by creating an engineering change order, which is the document we use to track creation of or changes to products in the ECM module. We will talk through the configurations needed to get products and change orders set up for use in ECM. Next, we want to send the information about the product and how to make it to any of our manufacturing sites that will produce it, which in this case is USMF. We will cover the product release policies that we can set up that will control this process and the options that we have when we configure them. USMF will then review the product and make sure the information is correct and complete. Our business process is for a manual acceptance of the product release instead of automatic. We also want to leverage templates in this example to make our product creation process go faster in USMF. And finally, we will go through our product readiness checks to make sure we're good to go, and then we'll activate our new product version. We want to make sure that there's both a BOM and a route on the product before we do any transactions on it.
Now, let us review some key setup and configurations required in the new engineering product creation process. These setups and configurations are key building block for the new product creation process. So first, engineering organization. Engineering organization is the first and one of the most important configuration which you will do. To ensure that the master data for product is centrally created and maintained, you can use the engineering companies. An engineering company owns the engineering products and their engineering relevant data. As you can see, DEMF has been configured as engineering organization. Through this connection, the system establishes a central entry point for all engineering relevant data for engineering products in the engineering company. In this central entry point, engineering products are created and engineering relevant data is maintained. And from this company, the engineering product and engineering relevant data will be released to operational companies, which are other legal entities such as USMF and USRT. These operational companies will use the engineering data as it has been designed by the engineering company. Any logistical data is locally maintained by each engineering company and operational company. Now, let us look at some of the key configuration and setup for new product or converting an existing non-engineering products to engineering products. We'll continue to use example of electronics manufacturing company, and we will use an example of headphones. Let us review if company would like to launch new headphones, how they can set up the engineering product category, which can help establish default behavior as per the company business rule. First is product type. It is one of the key setup on engineering product category. Product type can be set up as an item or service. As we are discussing an example of headphones to launch as new product, it has been set as an item. Another key setup is production type. Production type is set to BOM, as headphones will be produced using multiple electrical components defined using the bill of materials. For production type field, there are three values available for selection. The first option is obviously the BOM. If it is set to BOM, you can use this engineering category to manage engineering products, which typically include BOMs. The second option is planning item. If it is set to planning item, you can use this engineering category to do formula change management for planning items. Planning items use formulas and they resemble to the formula items, but they are used to produce only co-products and byproducts, not the finished products. Third option which we can set for this option is formula. If it is set to formula, you can use this engineering category to do formula change management for finished products. These items will have a formula and formulas are used during the process manufacturing. Another key setup is product subtype. This field setup indicate if product will be used as product or product master. For product masters, product dimensions will be used. If you have products with variants such as size, color, configuration, or version, you should set up product subtype as product master. Otherwise, you can set up the product subtype as product. For our specific example of headphones, we have set up product subtype as product master, and the product dimensions we are going to use are color and version, which will be used as variants. Another configuration is track version in transactions. Select this option if the version of the product should be stamped on all transactions. For example, if you track the version in transactions, each sales order will show which specific version of the product that was sold in that sales order. If you don't track the version in transactions, sales order won't show which specific version was sold. Instead, they always show the latest version. If this option is set to yes, the product master is created for the product, and each version of the product will be a variant that uses the version product dimension. The product subtype field is automatically set to product master, and in the product dimension group field, you must select a product dimension group where the version dimension is active. Only product dimension groups where the version is an active dimension will be shown in the drop-down. If this option is set to no, the version product dimension won't be used. You can then select whether to create a product master that uses other dimensions. This option is often used for products that have cost difference between versions. Therefore, it is important to indicate which version was used in which transaction. Next configuration is version number rule. As we discussed in the previous slide for headphones, we have set up product dimensions, color, and version. For version dimension value, version number can be configured using the version number rule. Version number rule can be set up with 3 different options. The first option is manual. In this case, you have to manually choose the version number for each new version. Second option is automatic. If it is set to auto, the system sets the version number based on a format that you define. For example, if you define a format as v-hash, the first version will be v-01, the second version will be v-02, and so on. The third option which you can use is list. The system takes the next number from the predefined list of custom values that you define. For this specific example of headphones, version number rule is set to auto and version will be created as v-01, v-02, and so on. Another important setup is enforce effectivity. Enforce effectivity setting affects the way you can use the effective from and effective to fields for each engineering version. If this option is set to yes, an effective from value must be specified for each version, and neither overlaps nor gaps are allowed between versions. The date range for each engineering version is connected directly to the previous and the next engineering versions. In this scenario, the newest version is always used and old versions are no longer used. If this option is set to no, there are no restriction on effectivity date fields for engineering versions, and both overlaps and gaps are allowed. In this scenario, multiple versions can be active at the same time and you can work with any active version. For headphones example, we are setting the enforce effectivity to yes, which means effective from and to date will not overlap and gaps will not be allowed between versions. Another configuration is nomenclature. Nomenclature options are available to define specific format for product ID, product name, and product descriptions. Set this option to yes to enable rules for defining a product number, name, and description by using number sequences, engineering attribute names and values, and text constant as segments. For our example of headphone, we have not set up nomenclature, which means when we create a new product using this engineering product category, we have freedom to define product ID, name, and description. However, if you have requirements in your organization to follow a specific format for new product IDs, their name and description, you can use the nomenclature feature. The next setup is lifecycle state at the time of product creation. Set up the default product lifecycle state that an engineering product should have when it's first created. Let's review lifecycle state configuration in more detail in the next slide. For headphones, we have set up the default lifecycle state as operational. This means when product is created, its default lifecycle state will be set to operational. So as an engineering product goes through its lifecycle, it's important that you be able to control which transactions are allowed for each lifecycle state. So let's review some settings on the product lifecycle state. Let us understand the flag default when released to legal entity. This setting is not applicable to engineering products. Product lifecycle state feature can also be used for non-engineering products. So when non-engineering products are created, this setting is used to set up the default lifecycle state of the product. For engineering product, as discussed in the previous slide, product lifecycle state defined on the engineering product category will be used and set at the time of creation. The lifecycle state of an engineering product version after it's created in the engineering company is specified in its engineering product category. So when the product is released to an operational company, the lifecycle state of the product will be copied as well. For example, headphones is engineering product and its default lifecycle state at the creation would be defaulted from the engineering product category. However, headphone BOM has one of the electrical component which is not an engineering product. However, in order to control that non-engineering product, how it will be used in the transaction or not, default lifecycle state can be used using this flag, and then it can be changed manually. Next configuration is active for planning. If this setting is enabled, If this setting is enabled, products that are in this lifecycle state will be included in the calculation at the master planning and bill of material levels. If you set it to no, then the products that are in this lifecycle state will be excluded from the calculations. You can enable or block various business processes for a specific product lifecycle state. For that, you can set up the policy value to either enabled. In that case, the business process is allowed. If policy is set to blocked, the process is not allowed. If user tries to use process on a product that is in this lifecycle state, the system will block the attempt and show an error instead. For example, you might block end of life products from being purchased. If the policy is set to enable with warning, the process is allowed, but a warning will be shown. For example, you might want a prototype product to be put on a production order that is created by research and development department. However, other departments should be aware that they should not produce the product yet. If you add new business processes to your system using extensions and customization, you can update the list on the enabled business processes for an existing lifecycle state by clicking on the refresh process button. You can also configure attributes on engineering product category. Typically, engineering products have many characteristics and properties that you must capture. Although you can register some of the properties by using the standard product fields, you can also create new engineering properties as required. You can define your own engineering attributes and make them part of the product definition. Some engineering attributes apply to all products, whereas others are specific to individual products or product categories. You can use the buttons on attribute fast tab to add, remove, and arrange attributes in the grid. For headphones example, we have set up 3 attributes at the engineering product category level. First is to define if headphone is a Bluetooth headphone. Another attribute is to define if headphone has ANC. And the third attribute defines battery life of a headphone. You can set the default value of each attribute, or it can be specified during the new engineering product creation process as well. Choose whether the attribute is mandatory, which means users must specify a valid value for attribute before they can save a product. Batch attribute flag. Select whether the attribute should be propagated through the batch functionality. Batch attributes are basically characteristics of raw materials and finished products that make up inventory batches. And batch attributes can vary depending on the factors such as environmental conditions, the quality of raw materials that are used to produce the batch, or the outcome of the finished products. Inheritance attribute flag. For product structures such as bill of materials or formulas, selected attributes can be passed from children's items to their parent items. This feature simplifies the management of attributes for finished goods or intermediate items. So using this feature, it's easier to identify all attributes that belong to an item, and you can select the attributes that you should propagate it from the item to its parent's item. This feature is useful when, for example, one component of a finished good is fragile, toxic, or flammable, because you can easily identify the fragile, toxic, or flammable attribute and propagate it to the finished good. We will cover this feature in more detail in next part of the tech talk. Readiness policy setup for engineering product category. When engineering product is released to operational company, before it can be made active to do any sales, purchase, or inventory transactions, readiness checks help with validation if all the key details have been defined for the product and is ready to use for the transactions. For example, check if BOM is active, or default order settings have been specified, or check can be in the form of checklist. Use the product readiness policy field to select the readiness policy that should be applied to products that are created based on this engineering category. In this example, we have set the product readiness policy for headphones as finished goods. We are covering in more detail how you can set up the product readiness policy and how various checks will be applied to specific engineering product category in its product. Product readiness checks are also done when you activate the product version, which we will see in detail in the later slides. Release policy setup on the engineering product category. When product is released from engineering organization to operational company, product release policy will enforce certain behavior, such as if you would like to use template item to populate product settings, or if you would like to copy BOM or route, or if you would like to apply template for BOM or route itself. So use this product release policy field to select the release policy that applies to the product that belongs to this category. In this example of headphones, we have set up the product release policy as headphones. We'll again cover this in detail in later section, how you can set up the product release policy for operational company utilizing item template, BOM template, route template, and settings to copy BOM and route, etc. Now quickly review the product owner setup. Product owners are a group of users who are part of product owner group and responsible for managing specific category of products. When a product owner group is assigned to a product, only the members of that group can release the product. The product owner can also be used in the approval workflow for the change orders. For example, in an electronics manufacturing organization, there is a product engineering department who manages different category of products. An organization can establish product owners for audio, video, or electrical components who are responsible for managing specific category of the products. Now let us review some of the setup which is needed for change order in order to launch new product using the change order process. In order to launch new product, organization will use change order. Engineering change order basically provides a structured process for making changes to the engineering products. So let's review some of the prerequisites or setup required for a change order. As you can see in the screenshot, this is how the change order looks like. Let's review some of the data elements and their setup, which makes a change order. In the top section of the change order, where some common properties or header information of change order will be defined, such as change order ID, title of a change order, status of a change order, priority, category, and severity of a change order, engineer who created the change order, etc. In the middle section of the change order will consist basically product information if the change order is for new product, new version, or a new variant. In this specific case, it will be a new product. And at the bottom in the product details section, additional item details, product attributes, documents, BOM, route, formula, etc. can be defined. So now let's review a setup of 3 key attributes to change orders: engineering change categories, priority, and severity. Engineering change category. You use engineering change categories to organize your engineering change orders so that they are easier to manage and review. For example, you might find it useful to set up a workflow where, depending on the category, specific department must review the proposed changes. Therefore, the engineering change order includes a category field. For headphones example, we have set up the engineering change category in the change order as new development. Next is engineering change priority. You use engineering change priorities to indicate the importance or urgency of an engineering change order. They can help you keep track of importance of the engineering change order so that you can easily identify which order should be processed first and how quickly. For again headphones example, we have set up the engineering change priority as routine in the change order. The next is engineering change severity. You use engineering change severities to indicate the level of impact that applies to the product in an engineering change order. You can also establish rules that apply to each severity level that you create. You use engineering change severity rule sets to establish a group of rules that you can use to automatically calculate the severity of the change order and based on the type of changes in the affected products. For headphones example, we have set up the engineering change severity as normal and we have set that up manually. The default category and priority on the change order that will be used when an engineering change order is created can be defaulted using the setup in the engineering change parameters. So you can also define how the severity of an engineering change order should be established. You can select manual if the user is expected to enter a value in the severity field. You can use the calculate button on the change order to have the system calculate the value of the severity field when you select the calculate severity button on the action pane of the engineering change order. Now let's discuss change order approval process. So once the change order is created with new product and product details such as attributes, BOM, route, change order needs to be validated to make sure there aren't any missing details. The change order must be approved before the changes can be processed. So when the changes are processed, the product is updated with the changes that are included in the change order. And if product owner group is specified, then user belongs to those product owner group will be able to approve, process, and release the product in the change order. We will also see validate and approval process in detail in demo. As discussed in the previous slides, change order provides structured process for either creating new product or to make change in the existing products. So in order to have controlled product launch process, change order is used and change order goes through a life cycle as change order progresses. So when change order is created, it will be in the open state. Change order properties will be defined, new products details will be added. Based on the selected engineering product category, the new product will inherit some behavior. Additional product details such as attributes, BOM, formula, and route details will be specified. So change order will be validated to make sure new product has all the required details. And once new product and its details are proposed, it needs to go through approval before it can be processed. So once change order is approved, it will be processed. This process will create a new product in the engineering organization. From this point, engineering product can be released to operational company and change order will be marked as complete. If throughout this process, if proposed changes are not satisfactory or as per the business rules and regulation, change order can be cancelled altogether. So in the previous slide, we reviewed manual approval process for change order. After the new product proposal and item details are completed, the review and approval process can be handled by a workflow. You can set up the approval and release process via change order workflow based on the priority as well as severity. There are three main stakeholders which can be used for change order approval process. The first stakeholder in the approval process is product owners. The product owners can be used in approval workflow in engineering change management because product owners know whether specific engineering changes will benefit their products. It often makes sense to include them as part of the approval. You can implement this approach by setting up the product owner as a participant providers in the workflow. Then system will assign approval task in the workflow to the users who are part of the product owner. Another stakeholder which you can be used in the approval process are responsible team lead. So there is an engineer field on the change order shows the engineer who created the engineering change order. If the engineer belongs to a team that is defined in the system, the responsible field shows the leader of that team. This way, responsible team lead can approve the change order. The third stakeholder in the approval process can be finance department. The finance department might have to review cases where the change involves high cost. So once the change order is approved, processing step also can be configured in the workflow. So apart from the approve and process change orders, there are also options to automate tasks such as like you can collect the release proposal, process the release proposal, and eventually complete the change order automatically through the workflow. So this concludes the key setups and configurations for the new engineering product creation process. Now I will hand over to Meenu, who will walk us through in detail setup and configuration for product release process and product readiness checks.
Thank you, Hiren. Now we have seen how to create a change order. Let's see what parameter and setup we need for releasing product and do readiness check before we start using it in an operational company. As showed by Hiren that in product change lifecycle, you create a change order in engineering company and then release it to the operational company. Engineering products are created and maintained by the engineering company. When we release product, it is controlled by release control parameter. In our case, we have DEMF as our engineering company and USMF as our operational company. Not all operational companies need the same product data. In general, operation companies that manufacture engineering products require a BOM, whereas operational companies that only sell engineering product don't require a BOM. You can use release policy to establish the parameters that are used for the release of products. Let's check high-level view of project release process. When we release product from engineering organization, it comes in the operational company in pending approval status. When we validate to make sure that new product has all the required data, and you'll perform all the readiness check to make sure it is ready to be used in transactions. You have option to approve or reject depending upon your business, and if you approve, it will bring product in the operational company to be used. Let's check key parameter that drives releasing products. First section is receive rules. That tells you how BOM, item, route name will be defined in the operational company when you release it. First one is item number rule. It has two options. First one is engineering product number. If you want item number to be same in engineering and operational company, you will choose that option. Local item number sequence. But if you want operational company to use next numbers from the item number sequence, then you'll choose that option. In our case, we are keeping it as an engineering product number, as we want item number to be same in both the companies. And similarly, for BOM name rule and route name rule, we have the option of engineering name or the receiving item name. Next option is to run BOM check. This is to check if BOM rule should run in operational company after it is released. The second section is send rules. Release behavior with inactive BOM, first one. This is to decide if you want to allow product with inactive BOM to be released or not. So our options in the dropdowns are accept, throw warning, and not allow. Similarly, if you want to allow releasing product with inactive route, you can choose to accept it, throw warning, or not allow. In our case, we have chosen accept, as our assumption is that you want to activate BOM and route depending upon your operational company. Next section is product acceptance, which is a key parameter that influences the release process. Each release of engineering product starts when someone from the engineering company select a product to release. When the product acceptance is set to automatic, the user engineering org decides which product data should be automatically released to the operational companies. The product will be automatically released to our companies that are selected in the release visit. When the product acceptance behavior is set to manual, the user at the engineering company decide which product data should be released to operational company. But user from operational company reviews the data and decide whether to accept the release or not. When the user acceptance parameter is set to manual, the user at the operational company can set the following option when data is received at the operational company. If the products aren't relevant for the operational company, the user can choose not to accept the release. The user can change the item template for the new products. The user can choose whether the product should be released together with their BOM or routes, or whether they should be released as approved and active. The user can change the effective date of the products. In our case, we are manually releasing it and approving it in operational company. Once you know the process is working, we should change it to automatic and use workflow to make it quicker for the business. We'll cover in more detail about the manual process. There are two more parameters that needs to be covered in engineering change parameter for release products. The first one, re-release of impacted products. When you're releasing products through change order, you want all product to be proposed to be released or just the change product. In our example, if you change any BOM component, would you want to release all components related to it or just the modified one? The second one is BOM level to release. This controls the BOM level to be released from change order. Options are one level or all levels. In our scenario, we're using all levels because we want to release all levels of the BOM related to it. Let's check the product release policy. It defines what information is copied from engineering organization to operational company. You could have different release policy depending upon type of product. In our example, we are using headphones. First thing you'll select is a product type. It could be either item or service. You cannot change the setting after you save the record. Next one is production type. This field appears only when you have enabled the formula change management and system. In this, you select the type of production that the release policy applies to. First, the options are co-product. Use this release policy to manage co-products. Co-products are produced during process manufacturing that aren't version or engineering products. Release policy for co-products can help ensure that important settings such as storage dimension group or tracking dimension groups are set up. Byproduct. Use this release policy to manage byproducts. Byproducts are produced during process manufacturing and aren't versions. None. Use this policy to manage standard products that aren't version or engineering product or co-products or byproducts. Planning items. Use this release policy to manage planning items that are produced by using process manufacturing. BOM. Use this release policy to manage engineering products which don't use formula and include BOMs. Formula. Use this release policy to manage finished goods that are produced by using process manufacturing. These items will have formula, but not a BOM. In our case, we are using BOM as headphones as other components with it. Next one is the apply templates. This tells how product release templates should be applied when the policy is used. It has three options to choose from. First one is always. Template release product must always be used for releases. If you select this option, make sure you specify template for each company in the All Product Fast tab. If you don't specify a template for each company that is listed in All Products Fast tab, you'll receive an error when you try to save this policy. The next option is optional. If the template is specified, it will be used when you release it to the company. Otherwise, it will not be used, which means you can use this policy without assigning templates to company. Never. No templates will be used for any companies when you release product. So even when template is specified for the company listed in All Product Fast tab, it will ignore it. In our case, we have chosen it to use always as we want the default values to be copied from templates. In All Product Fast tab, you would define company account. Choose what all needs to be copied from it. First, so depending upon the company, you'll select the company that the row applies to. Then you'll choose a template. It used to copy the data from template. That way, we do not have to manually update the item. You would define templates based on item types. If using templates, typically one release policy for each kind of item category. If not using template, you could have fewer, more general release policy. Example, we have defined release policy for all kind of headphones as one. Next one is receive BOM. In our case, we want to copy BOM and BOM components, so we have chosen the receive BOM options. You would notice that receive route is unchecked. In our case, we defined route in our operational company. But if you have option to copy BOM approvals, BOM activation, route approval, or route activation. Every time you add a row in the product fast tab, a row that matching ID is also added to the optional parameters. Same way you would define company, you'll define a template BOM. You will define it to the reason you will define it so that you can copy the default BOM lines and similarly a template routes. This field is useful for adding a local component such as packing instructions and all that. The next option is copy effectivity. This is to copy effectivity from and to date from engineering to operational company when you're releasing a product. Next one is automatically add to release proposal. Select this checkbox for products that should automatically be released on the engineering change orders. So that concludes our release policy. Let's look at the readiness checks. In today's one, when we are constantly shrinking product lifecycle, increased requirements for quality and reliability, and focus on product safety, each company must ensure that all the needed data is fully set up before products start to be used in transaction. So you do a readiness check once you receive product in operational company to make sure all required data are set up needed by business. Although readiness check is optional, but we still recommend you to do that so that you don't have any issues while doing any transaction. In our case, we want to make sure the headphones has a correct BOM item before you can use in transaction. When you receive a product in operational company, it would be in the pending state. And from there, you could check or complete, which will either change the status to failed or passed. If it failed, you could skip it only if it is not mandatory. And after that, you'd approve the product to use in operational company. We'll cover this in more demo in detail. So let's look at the product readiness policy. Readiness checks are groups in readiness policy, which makes them easy to manage and assign to a specific products or types. Each readiness policy includes a set of checks that apply for products or a set of products. When readiness policy is assigned to products, all mandatory checks should be completed before it can be used in transactions. In our example, we have created a policy for finished good, which is of a type item for headphones. And then we have added checks as needed by our products, like a production, which would check if BOM exists in engineering version, and costing, which checks if either prices exist for the release product. You would notice that we have a special checklist called digital channel. These are the questionnaire or checklists which you can create for specific scenario. We are using it for digital channel. We want to make sure that item is set up correctly for e-com or POS store, and it's in a correct hierarchy to show in those channels. So you can add as many checklists as you want depending upon your business. So these are different product readiness check. Product readiness checks are a set of automatic or manual checks that ensure that product is set with required data before it is used in transaction. There are three types of checks: system check, manual check, and checklist. System check. In this check, system automatically verifies where there is a value in the specified field. Example, if the cost price exists for the release product. Manual check. It is a predefined check where the user is expected verify the specific information like default order setting is correctly set up for the product. In this, user is supposed to focus on special area and define the needed information. As I've mentioned by Hiren, that we cannot add any system or manual check without any customization, but there's a checklist, which is a set of defined steps for focus area that user must follow. Each checklist is a questionnaire that you can define and configure for your business need. Checklist could be set up in the questionnaire module, and we have provided the URL for the setup. Next, Anne will walk us through the demo.
Thanks, Minu. Now that we've talked through all the different setups that we need to do in Dynamics to support the new product process, let's walk through the process itself in the system. So we're going to start in Dynamics in the DEMF company because that's our engineering organization. And what we need to do to create our new product is to create a new change order. I'm in the engineering change management workspace, which is part of the engineering change management module, as you can see here. You can also create a change order directly from the engineering change management menu. I'll create new order. And the first thing I'll do is I will add a title for my change order that defines what the purpose of it is for reference. So I can come back and see it if I need to. New wireless headphones launch. My category defaulted to change. I'm going to update that to be new development because we're adding a new product, so it needs to match. The priority will be routine, and I'll manually set the severity to normal in this case. Just want to point out on the header, it automatically filled me in as the engineer because I created the change order. Back on the lines, I'm going to create my new product in the Impacted Products tab. I'll click New and then create a new product. Now I need to fill out the engineering product category that the product belongs to, which is that headphones category that Hiren was talking about earlier. You'll notice over on the right that the engineering attributes that we associated with that category are added because I set that as my category for this item. I'll define my product owner, which will be audio in this case. And then I'll set my product number manually, although Hiren talked about the options that we have to set the product numbers automatically. I'll choose my color for my default variant, which is going to be black in this case. And then I'll add my product name, which is wireless earbuds with ANC. You'll notice that the version number, the first version, was defaulted and I can't change that. And that's because the rule was auto that we set up earlier. And then I'll add a description for my headphones that just talk about what is the product. So it's by Contoso Audio, they're wireless earbuds with noise cancellation. Over on the right, these engineering attributes that were defaulted, I need to set the values. So Bluetooth is going to be yes, noise cancellation will be yes, and then my battery life will be 8 hours for these earbuds. As we mentioned before, we could have additional engineering attributes that default with the product based on the category, or we can always add some later, which we'll talk about in a second. I'll click OK. And now the item shows up under my impacted products with a change type of new and an impact of new product. We don't have the current version showing up yet because technically this product doesn't exist yet. It won't until we process the change order. So under the details for this item, I can see the information that I filled out, the lifecycle state that defaulted based on our engineering product category policy for lifecycle state, and then all the other information that I filled in when I created the product. Under the item details tab, I can fill out information like the BOM unit, the different weights, the product dimensions, yield, potency, and item data. Here under attributes, I can see the attributes that I filled out before. I could add or remove attributes if I wanted as well. The documents tab I can use to attach any sort of documentation related to this item. For example, a product drawing or an engineering drawing for the product. Here under the bill of material tab is where I'll create the BOM for my item, and I'll name it after my product and just call it BOM and set it up for site 1. Instead of going from scratch, I'm going to actually copy the BOM from my wireless earbuds that don't have ANC and then just add the ANC part to make this go a little bit faster. So what I'll do is in my base data, I will look up the BOM that for my non-wireless or non-ANC headphones and select this one, HP003, and I will click OK to add it to the base BOM. So replace or add doesn't matter because I don't have any BOM lines for my new BOM yet. Now we can go to the lines of my BOM and we can see that the BOM for my non-noise canceling earbuds was copied over. We've got the 4 components, and what we need to do now is we need to add the component for noise cancellation, which is CP003. So I'll select that component, I'll fill out the quantity, and we notice over on the left that the change type is new. So all of these products are also going to be technically impacted because they're being added to a bill of materials. Once this all looks good to me, I'm going to close this and it will save the BOM for my new item. From here, I can approve my BOM by clicking the approval checkbox. When I do that, it needs to be approved by a worker who is active in that legal entity, which in this case is DEMF. So I'll click OK, it's been approved, and then we'll activate the BOM. We don't need to add a formula. We're not going to add a route because USMF should set up the route in our example. So we'll leave this blank, but you could create it from here. And then on change information, I'll set the change reason to be new product launch, but I won't fill out, there's no special tooling, no disposal codes, no customer approval required. So we won't fill out those fields, although we will talk about them more in the next Tech Talk in this series. Now that I have all the information, I'm going to validate the change order, and this will just make sure that I do in fact have complete information to be able to process everything. I've got a thumbs up, change order is correct, which means I can approve it. As Kieran mentioned, we can use a workflow to route the change order for approvals and automate some of the steps, but in this case, I'm just going to manually approve it so that we can speed the demo up a little bit. Once I approve it, you'll notice I can't edit these fields anymore in the change order because it's approved. We've locked it down. This still hasn't created a new product though. So the next step that we will use to create this product in the system is the process step. And this will create the release product record in DEMF. We can see that once that's complete, the status is now processed, and we have the products process flag is yes with a stamp of who did it and when. And again, this created the product in the system. The next thing we want to do is release the product to USMF, but to do that, we need to activate the engineering version first in DEMF. So here's the engineering version details, V01, that we just created through the processing step. To activate it, I'll click product and then I'll click activate version. Sometimes you may have readiness checks in this entity. I'm just going to skip them in DEMF and activate it and make sure that my BOM is active and everything looks good. Now that it's active, we can release the product by clicking Release Product Structure in the engineering change order. This will create a product release. We can also do this outside of the engineering change order, but we want to connect this one because it's part of the new launch process. I will set my releasing site to site 1. I need to set a releasing site when we have a BOM or a formula attached to the item because they are site specific. And we can tell that on a particular item, whether it has a BOM or formula. If we scroll all the way to the right, we can see that has BOM or formula is actually a field we can see with a checkbox. So this is the only product. I'll click yes, and then I'll select the company I want to send it to, which is USMF, and I'll specify that the receiving site is site 1. And then I'll confirm my selection. I'll click finish. You can run this in batch, especially if you're doing a large number. We would definitely recommend that. So that created the product release. And if I'm done with everything on the change order in DEMF, then I can click complete to close the change order out. And then we'll switch over now to USMF. So notice we've changed companies. We're in the manufacturing entity now, and we're going to review the product release that was completed or created, and then we will complete it and approve it. So we can see HPA 004 was released as a product to USMF. It's pending acceptance, and we can see the engineering change order that it was related to. So if I click on this product number, it will open the release for me. And we can see the information about the release. Where did it come from? What were the releasing and receiving sites? And the details. So all of that information we created for the product. The template item that is specified based on our release policy, the fact that it has a BOM coming with it, but no route, and we're not copying the BOM approval or activation, just the base data. And we can see if we had a route, it would show up down there as well. We also see that all the impacted components that are on the BOM are included as part of this release. And then if we want to just check everything, we can click validate to make sure we have all our information. So maybe, for example, my template item was missing a storage dimension group. If I ran the validation and that was the case, then I would get a warning or an error that says you don't have all the information that you need to receive this product and set it up in the system. So that's what that validate step is doing here. Once we are happy with everything and we think it looks good to go, then we're going to accept the release, which will create this as a released product in USMF. We also have the option to reject the release if for whatever reason it doesn't work for us. And once we have, if we refresh the screen here, once we've accepted the release, it drops off of our open products releases. If we want to go see the products that was released to USMF, we can go to all released products, which we can do through the ECM menu or through the workspace that we were just in. So here, let's take a look for our item ECM HP 004. And here we go. So our item is now set up as a released product. Now what we need to do is activate the engineering version in USMF for it to be ready to go. So here's the version V01 that was released, but it's not active. Before we can activate it, we want to go through our readiness checks and make sure that the product is good to go. We have 2 readiness checks in USMF. We have a check to make sure that the BOM exists and is active, and we have a check to make sure we have a route. To run a system check, I will just make sure I have the line selected that I want to run, and then I will click check/complete up here on the top. And it's not assigned to me, but I'll still do it. And we failed because we know we have a BOM, so we should go check out why it failed. You also notice that because this step is not mandatory, I have that skip option available at the top. If we decided that we wanted to skip it, then we could. But we want to go figure out why we failed the BOM check, because we know there was a BOM that was added as part of the readiness or as part of the release. So let's go look at the engineering version and see what's going on with that BOM. We'll go back and look at the engineering version details. And there's our culprit. So we have a BOM, but it's not approved and it's not activated. So we'll go in here and we will activate the BOM, approve the BOM, again, somebody in that legal entity, click OK, and then we'll activate it. Once that's done, we can go back to the readiness checks and we can check it again and it will pass. And then we can approve it once it's passed to say we're good there. And then the next check we can run and it's going to fail because we know we didn't set up the route. So we click check complete and it's going to fail because we don't have a route. We don't have the option, if you'll notice, to skip this one because it is marked as mandatory. So we would have to go set that up. However, and this is important to note, this isn't actually going to stop me from activating my version. I can still go to the product and I can click activate version and I will get a warning that says you're activating this even though there's open readiness checks. Do you want to continue? So the system will still let me activate the version and use it in transactions. So you want to make sure that when you're setting up your business process that you, if you're using readiness checks, that you have it all lined up to make sure you're not releasing it before it's ready. And that is our process of getting a new product launched using ECM. That brings us back to the riddle of the day, which was, what did the mechanical frog say?
What is it, Anne?
Rivet, rivet.
It's funny.
All right, we have a couple minutes left, so Mino, I'm going to hand it over to you. Do you have any questions that we need to answer or anything that came up during the session that we want to get for the recording?
Looks like we have answered all the questions, so I don't see any more questions came up. So I'm going to hand over to Linda.
Okay, great. I've posted a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd love to hear your feedback on today's session and to hear what you'd like to see in future events. Thank you for your participation. As a reminder, the recording of today's event will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within the coming weeks. So I'd like to extend a great big thank you to our presenters and audience for joining us today. Thanks and have a great day.